Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Walker, Season 3, Episode 11. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's start off with Walker and, Cassie. Blinking there for a second. So Cassie filled in a tiny bit about everything that Walker and Julia talked to Tommy about last episode. And apparently Julia's in DC. She's a journalist, so she has her job, so she can't really be here to check on stuff. I brought it up last episode. It's just like, I don't know, man. I was already a little suspicious of Julia before, but then it was like, oh no, she actually is a journalist. She wrote up all this article and stuff about, so I was like, okay. But then now she popped back in the story. I'm like, I'm back to feeling weird about you. I'm like suspicious about you. Just, I don't know, man. It just, it's a situation where like, you just don't know who you can 100% trust. To be fair, that's been ingrained in this show for a while, but considering like, let's not forget who was connected to Emily's death. It was Stan. So like, it's not like stuff hitting close to home hasn't happened before in this show. Literally all of last season was about the Davidsons, and that hit super close to home. So there's that. So it wouldn't be too much of a surprise with the Julia stuff, but it's just like I said, my mind went from not suspicious to not suspicious. Now I'm back to being suspicious, and her having to be out of town, happening to be out of town, like in DC at the same time this is all going down. Once again, I don't know. I'm probably like reading way too much into it. By the end of it, I'll be like, oh yeah, Julia super wasn't the suspicious person I thought she was, but for now, she's somewhere on that list of, suspects and stuff. But regardless, Walker doesn't want to believe all of this because now he's thinking like, it can't be really like, maybe Tommy is paranoid, but it is interesting that Cassie's the one that says like, right, you might want to actually look into this, because she's actually been down this route before where she was looking into Miles and everyone's telling her she was crazy. And as we all know, she super wasn't. She was onto something, her unwillingness to let go. And there was a conspiracy involved, and there was like other pieces to this whole situation with Fenton and stuff like that. So it's not like she was like wild and out and completely out there, but with Cordell, she wants to help him, like, for his own peace of mind. Especially for him, it's like, he has a lot of guilt over this, because it's like, right, these are people in my unit who I've not talked to in a very, very long time, because I think for his sake, he didn't want to go back down that route. He was in a very bad place, and with a lot of that stuff, like, he's got a lot of demons connected to that, and so he wanted a clean break from it. He kind of went on, lived his life, and probably thought about them from time to time, but he never reached out, and now he regrets it, considering like, yeah, his unit seems to be dying one by one in very suspicious ways, but they're not suspicious. They could just be, okay, things are straight up as they are. So Cordell's looking into some of it with Cassie. One of his teammates, one of the people from his unit, apparently, like, someone said, like, oh yeah, there was a survivor of the crash, but another thing was like, wait, there was two other people in the other vehicle other than, like, the person from the guy from Cordell's unit was in one car, and the other person, there was, like, two people, and so it's like, one report was saying, like, oh yeah, like, there was a third person, like, one person walked away from that, but it's like, no other report says that, so witness testimonies could be like, wrong or misremembered or something like that. So, but that puts it as a little bit weird, but it's like, oh, the theory is, oh, he got scared because he heard a honk, like the honking scared him, and he kind of like might have like crashed as a response to that. But it's like, no, he lost his hearing, or was in the process of losing his hearing. And to be fair, for Cordell, it's like, that was years ago and he was already kind of losing his hearing, but even more so, it's probably like, because to the point, like, he would eventually become completely deaf was kind of like the whole point. But Cordell hasn't checked in on the guy in so long, so even he wouldn't know for sure. So they ended up checking on another member of the unit, Ortiz's wife. He's the dude that died from like the heart attack. And so Cordell and them start talking to her. Basically, she said like everything was kind of fine. They had another child on the way. Everything was good. He was taking a security job or something until like he started stressing out nightmares about the past. They haven't really gotten into it, but they do say like, oh, because she was like, yeah, the stuff you and that unit went through. Like, I don't know if that's more traditional, like the sad aspect of people just in general coming back from military service not being okay just because of everything they experienced, or was there like a very specific thing? Like, because obviously Cordell hasn't talked about it, but it is something that haunts him, because he even said like, yeah, Ortiz had his vices, and it seems like his was pills. That's how he was dealing with everything. And Walker had his own, which he didn't dive into that too much. But I vaguely feel like I remember him talking about that a little bit, hasn't he? Like that he might have dived into drinking and stuff that I don't know, but he had brought up Ortiz had his issues beforehand. It's like, yes, I'm bringing this up to his widow, and I'm drudging up not only a lot of stuff for her, but a lot of stuff for me, stuff that I hadn't thought about in a very long time. I think it's stuff he never fully dealt with. It's just, it kind of got buried in the past, and now a lot of that's resurfacing. And I think I brought this up previously. I feel like the reason why Gray Flag's got to be coming after you now, because I initially thought like, okay, they want to try and recruit Walker, which it seemed like some of them did, but now it's like they're going out of your way systematically killing the rest of your unit, because I think his unit saw or was a part of something years ago that they don't realize, either like they didn't realize was a thing. It's either something that they saw or experienced that they didn't realize was a big enough thing that warrants them being killed potentially. Because like maybe someone's trying to hush something up, maybe someone in a powerful position that's connected to the military in some shape or form, or like Walker's unit in particular. Like I said, because why would Gray Flag go from like, once again, Sean and everything trying to, it seemed like recruit you, to now trying to kill you? So now you're wondering, like, I think they had started suggesting like, could it be that there's a different group involved? Even though the person that sadly ended up killing Tommy was part of Gray Flag, like, is there dissension amongst the ranks? Like, is that group, is that a fully like, oh, we're in this together? Or is it like that group's divided in what they want? Like, maybe Sean was kind of part of one sect, and who's ever killing Tommy, but dude, because that was also the thing too that Cordell was pointing out, or him and Cassie were talking about, is that Gray Flag didn't come after Walker until Fenton, but all this other stuff with his unit happened before he went after the Fenton situation. So now the question becomes like, well, if that's the case, why now? Like, if this is about the past, why now? Like I said, not unless Gray Flag ended up digging something up and that set off a chain of events. But it's like, once again, this all happened. I don't know. It feels like it has to be like almost two different groups after, like Gray Flag might have, there has to be like some subgroup that has their own goal, that maybe like Sean went his own route, but that was one thing. And that was kind of him alone. And then like this other group is another thing. I still, once again, will not let it go. I think their commanding officer, once again, I think his name is Gunner, the main dude that was Walker's mentor, that guy, I still believe he's not dead, that he's actually behind all of this. So, once again, we will have to wait and see. But, yeah, sadly, Tommy's dead now, and now Walker's the only one left. Their one lead was, sadly he ended up dying when he tried to run Cassie off the road. But, and I think, I'm curious, is that a situation where, like, Cassie's never been directly responsible for, like, because it shook her up, because she was just, like awestruck when it happened. And so, I guess flabbergasted might be a better word, because I feel like, well, because I think awestruck, because I always get them confused, because awestruck doesn't mean what I think it's supposed to mean. Either way. So it seemed like that really took a toll on her, and she was just kind of like, yeah, I'm good. But I'm like, I don't, Cassie might have never taken a life before in that regard. And maybe that's what, I mean, plus also this is like their only lead of having any information. But the sad thing is Walker is the only target left. And it's like, yeah, what they did to Tommy, they wanted someone to find his body. And the only person who would have found his body is Cordell, because he's the only one that's been him and Julia are the only one that have been in contact with Tommy. So I do think it's interesting that they happen to find Tom. I mean, to be fair, Cordell's probably did a good enough job, but I mean, it's probably like when you have probably like an entire organization or anarchist group, as they're kind of labeled as, like hunting you down, like even a smallest slip up could lead away. But once again, my suspicions of just interesting that after you visit with Julia, that's when he ends up getting killed sometime after the fact. Timing's just feels a little too coincidental, but Once again, I don't know. We'll have to wait to see where that goes, but that's definitely going to be interesting. And Cordell wants to read James in about it because it's like, right, let's kind of figure this all out. While at the same time, there's the whole situation with Trey. Because the moment that, like, Trey's meeting with that guy, and the guy's like, oh, yeah, we have a job for you, but we want to test you. I'm like, that seems weird. And it's like, okay. I was like, that seems a little... And then the moment, like, they're paralleling, like, oh, yeah, like, Ortiz was working with some, like, private contractor. And at the same time, we get the storyline element of Trey meeting with that guy, Andrew, and it's like, oh yeah, he's part of this, and he's trying to recruit Trey. He's going above and beyond to recruit Trey. I was like, it seems like you're trying to, or Trey's like, yeah, I kind of want to take it slow right now, because I've always kind of been in one career after another, and the guy's not like, normally be like, I understand, but if you change your mind, reach out to us. He was very firm of like, I'm trying to get you to sign this right now. Then I'm like, that's weird. And so the moment it's like, oh, Trey's like, hey, this test or whatever, he's like, well, you should do this, and this. And I'm like, it feels like you're helping out some criminals, like, get past some security or something like that. Like, they're going to use your plan as a means to, like, it almost felt like almost like a thief asking you, like, oh, how would you get past all the securities? Oh, I would do this, and this, huh? Oh, that's interesting. You pass the test, and then use it to rob a place. It kind of had that vibe. So I was like, oh man, Trey's definitely getting mixed up with those people, but it's because he's undercover. I thought that was a nice reveal. I was like, that's so interesting. So the whole Trey getting fired thing was part of the plan, but it's like, when was Trey read in about all of this? Like when James was grilling him and getting on his case and kind of acting a little dickish. I'm curious, was he doing that because this was all part of the plan, or did that come later? That's what I wonder. When was all this set in motion? So maybe the moment while he was away after the Thanksgiving episode, maybe that's when a lot of stuff changed. He found out about a lot of stuff, looked into this gray flag stuff a little bit more. So he was using any opportunity as a chance to kind of dig in deep. Because I was like, it came out of nowhere. But I like, hey, he's getting pressure from higher up. I can understand or something, but I wasn't sure where that came from. But it's like, no, it's all a ploy. And it's like keeping Cordell and Cassie in the dark, but they want to fill James in about everything. So the moment they fill him in about it, he's probably going to have to fill them in about Trey. Maybe not. Or I'm curious to see how he's going to handle that, especially at the timing that this is all happening too. That him and Kelly are in a better place because she's getting a job position that will allow her to be in Austin. So no more kind of traveling around. Like, we can kind of settle down and kind of get back in the flow of things, because last season that they really things kind of started sparking again, and this could be their opportunity to focus on themselves. And James is trying to take that opportunity, kind of getting all awkward, and it's actually kind of adorable when he's giving her a key to the place. She's like, oh, I do have like the electronic code, but she's like, no, I get it. He's like, yeah, it's a symbol. It's supposed to mean something. So. But I think that's probably also the catch of it all, too. Is like, he's got the Trey stuff on his mind. And she's like, no, I trust you. I got your back. He's like, yeah, that trust means a lot. Because he's got the two people he cares about, Cassie and Cordell, like, thinking the worst of him. And it's not just them. Like, I think the way he kind of talks about it later on, he's like, yeah, I'm kind of getting death stares from everyone in the office. Because, like, I mean, Trey is Trey. He's kind of a lovable dude. So, like, I'm sure, like, Trey, it's very sociable. He's always helpful to people. So a lot of people probably click with Trey, and so they feel like Trey got screwed over. So he's feeling all that. But it's like, hey, as the one in charge of all this, you got to let people, got to keep the circle small because of how powerful this group is and what they're capable of. So they don't see it coming. So, but yeah, Trey, because Trey has said, like, Kevin hooked him up with this job. I wonder if that's just a BS story he told Cassie. So I wonder if Cassie would actually talk to Kevin. She's like, yeah, that job you offer Trey. And Kevin would be like, what are you talking about? Wait, didn't Trey come to you for a job? Yeah, I tried to offer him one, but he turned me down. Like, that's when I'm wondering if we're going to get, like, a scene like that in the future, so. Oh, no. Oh, wait, I forgot. No, correct me. I got to correct myself. I'm stupid. I forgot. Cassie was saying Kevin could hook you up with a job, but he was like, nah, like, I don't want to do that. I forgot that's what I thought Kevin hooked him up with all this, but it's like, no, he kind of found something on his own. Okay, so never mind. Remove it. Completely ignore everything I just said. That was completely wrong. I could cut that out, but I'm just going to leave it in because I was like, right, Kevin didn't give him the job. He kind of did it on his own. Cassie was like, oh, you should go to Kevin. Maybe he could hook you up with a job or something like that. But Trey turned that, like, suggestion down, so... It's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. And then on the Walker Ranch front, we have things with Bonham and Stella and Liam. All that's kind of weird because they're continuing to do that stuff, but kind of behind his back, and he's not very appreciative of it. It seems like he's kind of just like very like, oh, I'm not talking to them. I'm kind of going on my way to ignore them. And then when he does see what they're doing, it's like, oh, what's that? It's like, oh yeah, this is kind of a logo for the thing we're making. It's like, oh, what about that? The Walker Ranch logo, is that not good enough? It's like, no, it's just, it's for like the website and just for the video. And it's like, yeah. So Abby ends up talking to him, and we kind of get to the root of it, where it just feels like this is something that's his, that was kind of being slowly taken from him and kind of changed. And it is kind of like you have to kind of change with the times and adapt with, things. And I think it's just because especially because he said all that he said to Liam previously about like, hey, like you want to go down this route, but you're kind of not ready. You don't have the green thumb for it like I do. But Abby convinced him. It's like, no, I got your back. I do believe you're right. They should have talked to you about it. But I do believe you should take this opportunity to talk to Liam, because it's like, hey, me and my brother didn't talk for so long. It took so long for us to be in a better place. But he's like, it's not the same. It's like, oh, a misunderstanding leading to decades of us not speaking. She doesn't want that to happen with Bonham. It's like, right, you don't want you to have regrets. But he's like, yeah, but like, going through life, you're going to have some regrets. But it's like, don't let this be something that like, it's a big deal, sure. But like, it's not something that is earth-shattering that could end up destroying his family. It's like, just talk it out before it grows into something you don't even remember what you're fighting for. But he's like, no, I clearly remember what it's about. And it's a little bit of pride, even he admits, because he was like, right, this obviously the ranch has been in their family for a very long time. And so when the time came, he's like, I thought, when you boys were growing up, I thought like one of you might take over the ranch. But then you obviously had different ideas. Now that when you had the green thumb, he was like, all right, I'd be the last line in the Walkers running this ranch. But then all of a sudden you came to me and you had this idea and you did all of this. He's like, and you kind of did it without me. Because he always had the idea in his head that, like, you were always interested in, like, hey, a father-son thing. And now here you are kind of building something. Yes, with Stella, but it's kind of without me. And it just, for him, it's like, yeah, it just kind of hurts that it just was kind of done without me. But it's like, for Liam, it's like, I never meant to do anything that would hurt you, Dad. He said, but I do want this to be a thing. Like, we could grow this and change this in so much. He's even saying, like, that logo, that's your father's, like, signature. And then the horseshoes are supposed to represent the past, present, and future. Because I want this to grow as a family thing, as a business, and I want you to be a part of it. He's like, yes, like, I kind of overstepped in some regards, and I understand that now. But yeah, I do want you to be a part of this. And I love him being like, and that is not my daddy's signature. He's like, my daddy's signature was chicken scratch. That's not it. Fix it or whatever. And it's like, okay, but it's artistic liberties. It's like, no, fix it. So he's kind of in on it. And I think they're going to be in a better place going forward with this whole thing. So, I mean, it makes sense because, like, this is kind of his bread and butter. But I think with what they're planning on doing, with him kind of knowing the ranch life, him understanding it, having a better understanding and grasp of it, knowledge of it than Liam and Stella, I think that's going to take this business. It's only going to benefit them in the long run. And speaking of the whole, because August at the beginning of the episode was like, cool, like, still working his way on paying back for the sidestep situation and getting better and better, closer, not really, but, getting somewhat in the not really ballpark of paying back Jerry and Walker, which made me go like, right, we have not cut back to Jerry for a while. Like, she was taking care of something that was like family business, and that's the last we saw. And I'm like, what is that? Is that just gonna be like a side plot thing, or does that have some major implications and connections with all that's going on right now? we'll ultimately have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.